To anyone celebrating The Acolyte getting canceled, seriously, off. The Acolyte was not a perfect series.
What the is this?
When most people think of Star Wars games nowadays, people think of games like this, an inconsistent line of what you can technically call Star Wars games, some of them actually being good games. But when I think of Star Wars games, I still think of the same thing, but I still think of games like Empire at War and what could have been Battlefront 3. When I was younger, I used to just mindlessly watch Empire at War and even old Battlefront videos. I was genuinely amazed with how you can go from ground to space in Battlefront or just the large scale of Empire at War. But you may be asking, Paulo, why are you talking about these dinosaur era games? And that's actually a pretty good question. Well, it's because one of the biggest problems Star Wars games have nowadays is variety. Yes, you can absolutely say that games like Empire at War or the original Battlefront games are somewhat outdated, but certain concepts that these games have, like a real-time strategy game or going from ground to space or ship to ship, is something that Star Wars games don't really fully explore. This is a franchise that is not only restricted to a singular planet, but rather it's an entire galaxy. The same can be said with Star Wars games. It's not restricted to a singular genre, but rather it's flexible enough to create different gaming experiences. I remember when the Battlefront 2 campaign had us thinking we'd play as Imperial Special Forces. I was like, cool. The trailer looked cool. The outfits that these guys had on was cool. One of the guys in the trailer, and I'm pretty sure in the game, dropped the hardest Star Wars gaming quote of all time.
We weren't expecting special forces.
That's the point, Sergeant.
All the same, we're in your debt, Commander.
It is brilliant American literature, and I don't care what anybody. It is. It should be taught in schools.
Just for them to switch sides early in the campaign.
Are these your orders? Because if they are, this is treason.
What you bobbing your head for?
Oh shit, I don't know.
I'm not gonna yap and go, guys, imagine a Star Wars game where you play as... But imagine a Star Wars game where you play as Imperial Special Forces, but instead of switching sides, your character remains loyal and willingly goes on with any missions they're given, exploring what it's like to not only play as someone in the Empire, but rather what it's like to play as someone who believes in the Empire. One of the most iconic factions in Star Wars is the Galactic Empire. This anti-alien faction's most goated character, arguably, don't kill me, is an alien. One of the first ever ships we see on screen is an Imperial Star Destroyer, so why have we not gotten a game dedicated to the Empire? They kinda did it with Andor, but why has nobody thought of making a game out of them? Star Wars games aren't all bad. I think Star Wars Squadrons had a lot of potential. It's very underrated, shout out to anyone that plays it, but the fact that it was planned to be a one and done game killed any chances of true success. Battlefront 2, despite its controversial start, was slowly building itself up with new game modes, new maps, and new heroes. The Star Wars Jedi games are really fun enough to warrant a game trilogy. Star Wars clearly has the capability to at least make fun games that have a loyal player base, something Star Wars struggles to take advantage of. There are dudes in the Star Wars Empire at War community asking if it was possible to work together to get a console release with mod support of the game. Mind you, this is a game that came out 19 years ago. There are people making Star Wars mods for games like Squad and Arma. There are fan games being made from scratch. There's a zombie Star Wars fan game. I don't know how he did it, but he did it from scratch. And even whole Milsim games in Roblox. There's a clear demand for Star Wars games, yet nobody seems to be taking the opportunity of making something cool. I'm not asking for a thought-provoking, genre-defying, and Game of the Year worthy game. I'm asking for a fun, entertaining, and simple game. Through that comes the Game of the Year worthy nominations and those deep, thought-provoking moments. To me, Star Wars itself is fun, entertaining, and simple. Then come those deep moments where even when you rewatch the movies, you can go, dang! Jar Jar Binks truly was a Sith Lord.
Jar Jar is also seen using sleight of hand movements and Jedi mind tricks during key plot points to influence the plot and change people's minds. He even uses them when he is promoted to general, when he's promoted.
Let me lay down the state of Star Wars for you. You have this repetitive ass game with drip feeding developers winning stuff in the Game Awards, while Star Wars can barely supply fans with a consistent line of good games. You have Marvel, a franchise owned by the same company that owns Star Wars, suddenly coming out with a fun hero shooter that's free to play, while Star Wars, arguably their best game, is a Souls-like. The inconsistency of Star Wars games has led us to this moment. Star Wars gaming is a barren wasteland. We have no idea what the next game is gonna be. A Star Wars Empire at War sequel is continuously being put on hold. Battlefront 3 was actually pitched by DICE to EA. I wonder how that turned out, and the most eventful behind-the-scenes Star Wars moment we know is 2 directors getting fired after showcasing a Knights of the Old Republic demo. It has been nothing but silence. It's fair to perceive this as simply keeping your head down and working, but that only works when the community is confident that you'll release a good game. All we can do now is hope. Hope that the development team is working hard to deliver a good Star Wars game. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are now relying on hope. A new hope.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Alright, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.